It's a rainy Monday in Amherst, Massachusetts, and we're at the Amherst College kitchen table of Hampshire College astronomer and the head of Kainaat Studios, Dr. Salman Hameed, Mr. Universe. While our ecosystem is finally receiving some much-needed rain on this spooky October day, we are being visited by outsiders in our sky, which, if it stays like this, cloudy, we won't be able to see. Comets are coming!
Yes, but you should be able to see them because I think the forecast says that it's going to get clear. Whereas we do need rain, so I don't want to sort of shortchange the rain out here. But most people have heard of the interstellar comet, and I do want to talk about that, the third comet that is visiting from another star system. I'm going to talk about it in a second, but before that, there is a comet. Its name is, you can call it Comet Lemmon because it was discovered by Mount Lemmon Observatory in Arizona. It was discovered in early January of this year, and it is visible to the naked eye. It's it's a little bit hard. You have to go to a dark side, and in the evening, if you can look in the direction of northwest, if it's clear, and if you have a nice horizon over there, about an hour and a half after the sunset, when it gets darker, this comet should be visible barely. Binoculars would be excellent, and its closest approach actually to the Earth is going to be tomorrow.
Nice.
Tuesday, October 21st. And it could be brighter, a little bit. It could get fainter. Comets are sort of that's one of the things that people say about comets, they're unpredictable. But yeah, it's going to be about 50, close to about 50 million miles from us. And it's going to be a little bit closer, so like today and tomorrow, closer to the Big Dipper. So, in some sense, you can find it. But I would say, I could try to tell you which place to look at, but you know what? This is 2025. You have so many ills of technology that are out there that can kill us, that can ruin your life, you can be doom scrolling. But while you have all those negative things, let's talk about some positive things also. While we are dying from technology, we can also use some of it for positive purposes.
Yeah, you can find the comet with an app on your phone.
That's exactly.
Do you recommend any?
Well, you can find free apps as well. For example, the Stellarium. You can go the Sky Live. You can also pay. They all have freer versions also, like Star Walk, for example. So again, I'm not even going to. Apart from Stellarium, because that's open source, so I do actually think that it's actually a nice thing to use. But use anything, then go out, you have a phone, point towards it, it tells you where the comet is, much better than...
But then put the phone down and try to see it with your naked eyes.
Yeah.
Use your human eyes.
Although sometimes, and this is something that about a year ago, there was a comet, in fact, exactly a year ago, it was October of last year, which you could see better in pictures when you take than with the naked eye, but...
I hate that. But I know that's how telescopes work too. I need to get over it.
Well, but it's not the thing, but naked eye, you still, when you are looking at it, the fuzzy thing, you have to translate into your mind about sort of that fuzzy thing is this amazing ball of ice and sort of rock that is coming from far, far away. So this particular comet, nicknamed Comet Lemmon, its period is around 1300 years. And in fact, it's coming here. It has a stable orbit, except that it's going to, when it comes close to the sun in November, 200 years are going to be shaved off of its next orbit. And next time it's going to be back in 1150 years, and it's going to be back in the year 3175. So 3175.
So if you miss it on Tuesday, you have to wait till 3175 to see it again.
Not a problem. So so this comet is sort of this is it's nice to see naked eye comets. Sometimes they become brighter. So last year, about a year ago, there was a fantastic comet that was actually visible after sunset, and so here is one opportunity. And
So an hour and a half after sunset, best tomorrow, Tuesday.
and
the
after that
21st.
too, but tomorrow is the closest. But of course, you're like in the next couple of days, I think it's going to be nice. And it's also moonless nights are usually better, and that is the case right now. So I think this is a good time.
Look into the northwest, look near the Big Dipper, and maybe bring a phone to help you, right?
Yeah, and I should mention that alongside with that, there is another fainter comet also, which is unusual to have two comets that are in our sky, but that is a comet, again nicknamed Swan, which is actually visible more early morning hours, but it's much fainter. You do need a binocular or a telescope to see that. It's in the eastern sky morning, and it is also going close to the sun, and that actually is what is called a long period comet because it comes once every 20,000 years. And so if you miss it, don't worry, stay alive for 20,000 years and you will see it again. But all while we are talking about that, of course, I don't want to miss out on the interstellar comet. That is the third comet that astronomers discovered. It's called Comet 3I, for the third interstellar comet, which recently passed by close to Mars. And the telescopes over there, not telescopes, I would say the orbiter spacecrafts, which are designed to look down at Mars, actually some of them turned to look at the comet. And also Perseverance rover that is there, it also looked up and took pictures of it. And so that's really cool. It's a closest picture. I mean, I think the closest it got to Mars was, I think, early October. And we don't have the pictures.
Oh,
Actually, no, I should clarify it. We do have the pictures, but we cannot talk about it and we cannot release them.
because it's an alien spacecraft, as Avi Loeb and other of his ilk astrophysicists believe. Is this another one where he's saying this is probably an alien spacecraft because it's visiting from an interstellar spot?
That he is saying, but the reason why we haven't seen those pictures is because of the government shutdown.
Oh no, that's the worst.
Because they have to be released officially through NASA. And NASA officially cannot release anything during the shutdown. And so those pictures exist, but we haven't. Some people have seen them, but they cannot release them.
It's like the Epstein files. Not going to get those released until the government starts back up either.
Epstein on Mars. So anyway, so that is kind of cool. But this is interesting. You mentioned the fact that astronomer Avi Loeb actually keeps on saying that this is an alien spacecraft. And I think we should treat all comets as alien spacecrafts. Why not? Like, if we are just going to say anything that comes in, like, hey, that's an alien spacecraft, and prove that it's not. Well, in the same way, I mean, I think we talked about two other comets. Why not? They may be alien spacecrafts. They're part of our own solar system, but maybe the aliens have just put those spacecrafts out there in this orbit.
They're forming a fleet.
They're forming a fleet. They keep on coming. I mean, and that is precisely the problem of claiming anything like, a little bit unusual or thing. Oh, that's an alien spacecraft. Well, why not use these, our own solar system comets, call them alien spacecrafts until somebody shows, well, they're not, like, and you keep on calling them, and I would say sort of like, make profit off of those too, because you can have a non-profit or you can whatever, like, do.
Because a lot of it seems like he gets more funding because he gets more attention when he says something that's very dramatic like this.
I think,
but in an era where we live in, are surrounded by fake news all the time, garnering all the major headlines and sucking up all the oxygen in the media sphere, maybe it's not something that public radio wants to do.
Right, and also just go to YouTube and search on interstellar comet, and you're going to find all the top hits are going to be about it as an alien spacecraft. And that is a disservice to that, again, because it is an uphill battle to fight for the right information. It has always been the case because it's much easier to promote sort of like false news. But now, especially with the way the algorithms work, I mean, they actually promote sensational news items. And so you are going to find that. So sure, fine, more power to him. Actually, no, less power to him, I should say. But if you are interested in why these things matter and how scientists go about studying them, then it does a disservice to that. So just to give you an example, this comet, for example, astronomers are trying to figure out, we know that it is about 7 billion years old. It would be the oldest object in our solar system because our solar system formed 4.5 billion years ago. So astronomers predict that, or they think that this comet actually was formed at another solar system, at another star system, and is older than our own solar system. And that is really interesting. And we cannot go to another star system to study these objects. We don't have the technology to do that. But this is a way to study another star system close by, because here is a visitor, and again, not an alien spacecraft, just a comet going through our own solar system, and you can actually study it, what is similar, what is not. And when we find things that are not similar, well, that is very exciting, because why would we expect it to be the same? Because you would expect that the place where it was formed was different than ours. And so that actually is a tremendous opportunity to learn about another star system. And that is to celebrate rather than to say, oh, it looks different, or here is something different. It must be an alien spacecraft. Well, that is not the case. And so far, it has exhibited all the things that a comet would do, even if there are some details and properties that are different. And those are the exciting parts, because that is telling us that where it formed potentially was in different conditions than our own solar system, and because it also formed 7 billion years ago compared to 4.5 billion years ago. So there are a lot of interesting things. And while we are at it, let me just close down this loop, because it is mid-October, on when sometimes people also talk about these comets and they tie it to what's the point. So let me tell you a story about Tycho Brahe.
Aha.
So Tycho Brahe, one of my favorite astronomical historical figures, his death anniversary, I'm connecting it together, is actually this week. He died on October 24th, 1601. And he actually, apart from other things, he had a prosthetic nose because he lost it in a duel.
Nice.
Yeah, because he was drunk. Actually, apparently,
That's the way I'm going to go out.
apparently he had this duel, at nighttime in the dark. And so he lost his nose in there, but then he had a prosthetic nose, and he also, really unfortunate, he did a lot of great stuff. But the other thing that Tycho Brahe, the first thing at least comes to my mind, is that he died from urinary infection, because he was at a banquet for a king, and he was a Danish astronomer. I think it was the Danish king, but he had to go. And he was like, he could not leave because of the court etiquettes.
So he held it?
He held it.
Oh my.
And so to me, the big lesson from that is if you have to go, you go.
Yeah, unless you're in a car ride with me, and then you should have gone before.
Well, that is absolutely correct. That's what Tycho Brahe would have. But he didn't have cars at the time.
I know.
I think there's a fault in that system. But so anyway, that's how he died. He got urinary infection, and then he died a couple of weeks later. But that's not the point what I want to talk about. He discovered and then actually measured a distance to a comet in 1577. This is a famous comet that was visible in the sky, and people looked over it. At the time, one of the ideas was that the comets were part of the atmosphere, not far away. They don't come from far away. And that was driven by Aristotle, because Aristotle thought that things that are under the moon, those can change, because that's where all the imperfections are. But he thought that things that are beyond the moon, those are perfect. Those never change, because any change from perfection is imperfection. So he says if they are perfect, and that's what he thought. He thought the skies, the heavens were just perfect. They don't change. Now, you have comets that come in. So you have to explain, wait a minute, if heavens are perfect, where are these comets coming from? So he thought, well, it makes sense that comets must be in our own atmosphere below the moon, not far away. And so that was, and Aristotle wrote about everything. His ideas were beautiful. His ideas were interlocking in terms of the Earth had to be at the center. You have other things of that's perfect, nothing changes in the sky, and so on and so forth. And they explained everything beautifully. And he was wrong about everything, right? Aristotle lived a few thousand years ago, so I'm not blaming him for that. But his ideas were very powerful because they were beautiful. They also placed the Earth at the center, but it also required a certain types of things. For example, the comets could not be beyond the orbit of the moon. But around 1600 or late 1500s, when Tycho Brahe was there, already Copernicus has shown, well, maybe the Earth is going around the sun, so that is already in play. And people are challenging some of those ideas. And Tycho Brahe measured the distance to this particular comet using parallax, which is one of the most powerful ways of measuring and accurate ways of measuring distances. And he found that this comet was 4 times the distance from the Earth to the moon. I was like, how could it be? And Aristotle said that there are these spheres, where all these planets go and things like that. And it was like, well, I mean, this comet is farther away than that, and it looks like it's passing through all these spheres. And so that was a major change in our thinking. And even though Tycho Brahe actually did not think that the sun was at the center, he still thought that the Earth was at the center, and he had a complex model of that. But he was the one using a comet. So again, this is about how comets have been impactful for us. He used the distance to the comet to show that the old model where everything is perfect beyond the moon doesn't work, and there is a comet that is coming in, and that is coming from much farther away than we thought. And then his student Kepler, who by the way was accused of potentially of murdering Tycho Brahe.
Whoa.
He was not. Yeah, so that's
he's the one who cut his nose off.
No, but he was his student, and he really wanted his data. There is a class issue as well. Kepler was a working class guy, but there was his body, Tycho Brahe's body. Okay, we are getting way sidetracked, but it's so cool. Tycho Brahe's beard and his hair were analyzed, I think in 2010 or something like that, and they found out there was some level of mercury in it. In the 90s, it was suspected he may have been poisoned. Then in 2010, his body was exhumed, and they found, well, no, it wasn't enough mercury to have been poisoned, and not peeing was the key thing that killed it. So anyway, Kepler then went on to use Tycho Brahe's data to actually figure out the orbits that, things go in elliptical orbits. We also know about the Kepler's planetary laws, which actually explain how planets go around the sun. And sun is at the center. Newton used those to discover the law of gravity that we know. And Newton's contemporary at the same time was Edmund Halley, who actually said, here's a comet that has come in, and guess what? It looks like the orbit is wonderful. I can actually calculate when it's going to be back. And he predicted it's going to be back in, 76 years? And it showed up. And that was a great confirmation of Newton's laws of gravity.
And they named the comet after him, of course.
Halley's Comet. Yeah, he did not do it himself, but yes, that's what got. So you go back to this thing. If you go back and say, why does Tycho Brahe care about how far the comet is? Why look at that? Well, that actually leads to our understanding of how orbits work, how gravity works, and now we have all the satellites, and you and I are talking about this technology, and this is going to be on radio and all of that stuff, and in the internet world, and so on and so forth. And but it started with looking at it, then how far this comet of 1577 was.
And now that we have an interstellar comet that is acting in ways that we don't expect, who knows what kind of discoveries we'll learn from it when we observe it.
That's the key thing, and those are always interesting things, interesting questions. Don't start with, it's an alien. No, that's the last thing. And again, that, Monte, we have talked about it. Discovery of an alien microbe would be an amazing thing, let alone a spacecraft or intelligent life. It would be the most amazing thing, but you need to have sufficient evidence to claim that this is not what it is. And I think it does a disservice, because I think the story of discoveries of comets and what comets tell us and how we learn about them, I think those are beautiful, those are spectacular. Let's not spoil this by, it's an alien spacecraft.
And meanwhile, go look at the comet tomorrow night, an hour or so after sunset in the northwest sky.
Or later, a couple of days later too.